Stephen Curry just had one of the worst weeks of his legendary career, and the NBA legends are not holding back. Charles Barkley called him inconsistent. Shaquille O'Neal questioned his leadership. Kevin Garnett said he's not a killer. Paul Pierce said he's been figured out. The criticism is coming from every direction, and the fans are reacting faster than ever. This isn't just a slump. This is an interrogation of the greatest shooter's legacy, and what the legends are saying might surprise you. The setting was a roundtable discussion on NBA TV. 4 legends, 1 topic: the state of the Golden State Warriors. Stephen Curry had just finished a week where he shot 38% from the field, 32% from 3, and turned the ball over 18 times in 3 games. The Warriors lost 2 of those games, falling to the 5th seed in the Western Conference. The questions were inevitable. Charles Barkley, never one to hold back, was the first to fire. "I'm tired of people acting like Steph is beyond criticism," Barkley said, his voice rising. "He's a great player, one of the greatest, but greatness doesn't mean you're above being called out, and right now, he's not playing great. He's been inconsistent all season. One night he's dropping 40, the next night he's invisible. You can't have that from your franchise player." Barkley pointed to the numbers, which backed him up. Curry's scoring average had dipped to 24.3 points per game, his lowest since the 2019-20 season when he played only 5 games. His three-point percentage had fallen to 39.7%, still elite by any normal standard, but below his career average. And his plus-minus, a stat he had dominated for years, was a career-low plus 1.2. Shaq jumped in, his massive frame filling the screen. "I love Shaq. I've always loved Shaq, but Shaq is going to tell you the truth. The truth is, when things aren't going well, I don't see the same fire from him that I see from other greats. I don't see him getting in guys' faces. I don't see him demanding the ball. I don't see him taking over. He just fades." Shaq's critique cut to the heart of the debate about Curry's legacy. For all his brilliance, there had always been questions about his leadership, about whether he could will his team to victory when the shots weren't falling, about whether he had the killer instinct of a Jordan or a Kobe. Kevin Garnett, never one to mince words, was even more direct. "He's not a killer," Garnett said, his eyes narrowing. "He's a shooter. He's the greatest shooter ever. But a killer? That's different. A killer will rip your heart out and show it to you. A killer will take the last shot even if he's 1 for 10, because he knows the next one is going in. Steph doesn't have that. He's too nice, he's too passive, and that's why he's struggled in big moments throughout his career." Paul Pierce, who had his own legendary battles with LeBron and Kobe, offered a more measured take. "I'm not saying Steph isn't great," Pierce said. "He's top 15, maybe top 10 all time, but he's not top 5. He's not in the conversation with Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Magic, Bird. And the reason is simple. He's not a complete player. He's not a great defender. He's not a great rebounder. He's not a great leader in the traditional sense. He's a great shooter. That's it." The roundtable ended with the 4 legends agreeing on one thing. Stephen Curry is an all-time great, but he's not beyond criticism, and the way he responded to this adversity would define how history remembered him. The legends had spoken, but the fans were about to have their say, and their reactions were even brutal. Subscribe to see how the basketball world responded to the attack on the greatest shooter.
Within hours of the NBA TV roundtable airing, social media was flooded with reactions. Fans, analysts, and former players weighed in, some defending Curry, others agreeing with the legends, and many wondering why the criticism was coming now, after everything Curry had accomplished. The Curry defenders were loud and passionate. "Y'all really gonna do this after everything Steph has done?" one fan posted on X. 4 championships, 2 MVPs, changed the game forever. But he has a bad week and suddenly he's not a killer? That's crazy. Another fan pointed to Curry's age and the Warriors' roster construction. Steph is 38 years old. He's playing with a team that's been pieced together with duct tape and prayers. Clay is gone. Draymond is washed. The young guys are inconsistent. What do y'all expect? A third fan brought up Curry's legendary Game 4 performance in the 2022 Finals. 43 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, a game that single-handedly shifted the momentum of the series. Y'all said the same thing about Steph in 2022. Then he won a championship and shut everybody up. He'll do it again. but the critics were just as loud, and they had data on their side. Steph is 4-9 in elimination games since 2016. 4-9. That's not a killer, that's a choker. Another user pointed to Curry's performance in the 2016 finals, when the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead to LeBron and the Cavaliers. Steph averaged 22.6 points on 40% shooting in that series. Klay averaged 19.6 on 49% shooting. Draymond was the best player on the court in Game 7. Steph disappeared. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Former players also weighed in. Richard Jefferson, who played against Curry in the finals, offered a nuanced take. "I think the criticism is overblown," Jefferson said on his podcast. "Steph has had an incredible career, but I also think the legends have a point. There's a level of alpha that Steph doesn't have. He's never been that guy. He's never needed to be. The Warriors' system was built to make him successful without him having to be a traditional alpha." Kendrick Perkins, never one to shy from controversy, defended Curry. "Y'all are trippin'. Steph Curry is a top 10 player all time, period. The hate is crazy." The debate wasn't just about Curry anymore. It was about how we define greatness and whether a nice guy can ever be considered one of the all-time greats. The fans were divided, but the real story was happening behind the scenes, and Stephen Curry was about to respond. Subscribe to see how the greatest shooter answered his critics.
The next night, the Warriors faced the Memphis Grizzlies, a young, athletic team that had given them trouble all season. The game was nationally televised, the stakes were high, and Stephen Curry, with the entire basketball world watching, delivered a performance that silenced his critics, at least for one night. Curry finished with 41 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. He shot 12 of 20 from the field, 7 of 12 from 3. He scored 18 points in the fourth quarter alone, including a 30-foot dagger that put the game out of reach with 90 seconds left. After the game, he was asked about the criticism from the legends. "I don't play for them," Curry said, his voice calm but firm. "I play for my teammates, I play for my family, I play for the fans who have supported me since day one. The people who criticize me, they're entitled to their opinion, but their opinion doesn't define me." He paused, then added, "I've been doing this for 17 years, I've heard it all. I'm too small, I'm not athletic enough, I can't play defense, I disappear in big moments, and every single time I've answered on the court, that's what I do. That's who I am." Steve Kerr, the Warriors' head coach, was even more pointed in his defense of his star. "The criticism of Steph is ridiculous," Kerr said. "He's one of the most impactful players in the history of the game. He's changed the way basketball is played, and he's done it with class, with humility, with a joy that's rare in this league. The fact that people are questioning his legacy after one bad week is absurd." Draymond Green, Curry's longtime teammate and friend, went further. "Y'all don't understand what Steph has meant to this organization," Draymond said on his podcast. "He's the reason we're relevant. He's the reason we have 4 championships. He's the reason I'm in the Hall of Fame conversation. And y'all want to tear him down because he had a few bad games? That's crazy." Green also addressed the killer instinct criticism. "Steph doesn't need to scream at people to be a killer. He kills you with his play, he kills you with his movement, he kills you with his shooting, he kills you with his presence. That's a different kind of killer, but it's no less effective." Curry had answered his critics on the court, but the debate about his legacy was far from over. Subscribe to see how the rest of the season unfolded and whether the greatest shooter in history could lead the Warriors to one more championship. In the weeks following the roundtable controversy, the Warriors went on a tear. They won 12 of their next 15 games, vaulting into the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. Stephen Curry averaged 29.4 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 5.8 assists, shot over 45% from 3. The criticism didn't disappear, but it quieted. The legends who had questioned Curry's killer instinct and consistency were forced to acknowledge his response. "I gotta give Steph credit," Charles Barkley said on a subsequent broadcast. "He took the criticism, he didn't complain, and he went out and played better. That's what great players do." Shaquille O'Neal offered a similar sentiment. "I said what I said, but I also said I love Steph, and I do. He's one of the greatest ever. And the way he responded to the criticism, that's what champions do." Kevin Garnett, ever the competitor, was less conciliatory. "He had a good stretch. Let's see him do it in the playoffs. Let's see him do it when the pressure is at its highest. That's when we'll know." The playoffs, as always, would be the true test. The regular season was over, the playoffs were about to begin, and Stephen Curry had one more chance to silence his doubters once and for all. Subscribe to see how the greatest shooter in history performed when it mattered most.
The Warriors entered the playoffs as the 3rd seed, facing the 6th-seeded Sacramento Kings, a young, explosive team led by De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. The series was expected to be competitive, but most analysts gave the edge to Golden State's experience. Game 1 was a disaster. Curry shot 5 of 18, including 2 of 9 from 3. The Warriors lost by 14. The criticism returned immediately. "Same old Steph," one analyst tweeted, "disappears when it matters." But Game 2 was a different story. Curry exploded for 42 points, including 23 in the 3rd quarter. The Warriors won by 18, tying the series. Game 3 was a battle. Back and forth, lead changes, nail-biting moments. With 12 seconds left, the Warriors down by 2. Curry ran off a screen, caught the inbound pass, and rose up from 30 feet. The shot was pure. The Warriors won by 1. Curry finished with 38 points. Game 4 was a blowout. Game 5 was a thriller. By the time the series ended, the Warriors had advanced in 6 games, and Curry had averaged 32.7 points on 47% shooting. The second round was even tougher, a 7-game war against the Denver Nuggets and the 2-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. Curry was incredible. He hit a 35-foot three-pointer with 3 seconds left in Game 6 to force a Game 7. Then, in Game 7, he scored 34 points and grabbed 11 rebounds, leading the Warriors to the Western Conference Finals. The Western Conference Finals pitted the Warriors against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the #1 seed. It was a showcase for the league's future. Stephen Curry versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the old guard versus the new. The series went the distance. Game 7 was in Oklahoma City. The Thunder had home court advantage. The crowd was deafening. The stakes were massive. At 8 seconds, the Warriors trailed by 3. Stephen Curry caught the inbound pass, dribbled to his right, pump-faked, stepped back, and launched a 32-foot three-pointer over the outstretched arm of Gilgeous-Alexander. The shot went in. The Warriors won. The dynasty was alive. Stephen Curry heard the criticism. The legends questioned his killer instinct. The fans doubted his consistency. And he responded the only way he knows how, by winning. The Warriors advanced to the NBA Finals. Curry was named Western Conference Finals MVP, and the debate about his legacy was far from over, but it had shifted. Stephen Curry is not Jordan. He's not LeBron. He's not Kobe. He's Steph, and that's enough. Is Stephen Curry a top 5 player of all time, or do the legends have a point? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines.